Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Sanderlanche podcast. Today, we are doing a little something special. We're going to do a little bit of the best predicaments from the Mistborn Era 1 trilogy, and then maybe talk about a couple other little things Mistborn Era 1 related, and then we are moving into, we read for this week, the Scadrian System essay from Arcanum Unbounded, and then part 1 of Secret History, wherein Kelsier is back as a ghost or something. So some interesting stuff happened. He gets to punch God and not disappear. Well, it's weird. So I'm Data, and with me is
Dak,
Jamie,
and Joe.
So hang on to something, everybody. The Sanderlanche is about to begin.
Push the kinetics, a troubled spirit breaking through. A bitter debt to repay now. But don't you dread it, a friend would never lie to you, helping you get through the pain now. And when everything is upside down, when you're yelling but you make no sound, life is gonna spin you round. Whoa, and get a little bit stranger. When everything is upside down, a tremor in the underground, the nights are gonna take this town.
Yeah, that new song is called Upside Down by Miracle of Sound, and it's based on Stranger Things. I almost said Stranger Than Fiction. That's a different thing than Stranger Things.
Yes, and I totally know what it sounds like. I mean, I've never... We just heard it, right? Everybody just heard it for the first time ever?
Everybody but you just heard it. So.
Yeah, that's right.
So, okay, I thought it would be fun to start out with, I picked one prediction, and these are all actually from the first book. So one prediction from each of you that was really good or crazy coincidence maybe, or just I thought it was fun. So we're going to do 3 of these. Let's see. Do I want to do them in like chronological order or let's do reverse chronological. Just like that means anything. So from episode 17, this is going to be towards the end of the first book. And obviously towards the end, because it has to be after Kelsier died. Here's what Joe said.
I'm still holding out some small glimmer of hope that somehow Kelsier will reappear in more than a Kandra form, whether that be Jedi Ghost or something.
Okay, so Joe predicts that Kelsier will be back in some form, and obviously until this episode we couldn't actually talk about the fact that came true. So I don't know. What do you guys think of that prediction?
I feel like you could have made the argument for when Spook had the crazy visions at the end of Hero of Ages, because that seemed to be leaning pretty heavily on this is Kelsier, he's not gone yet, so. That's
true. Well, I guess if nothing else, it was like Say's just like, oh yeah, Kelsier asked me to make you Mistborn. So it was like, oh, well, he's definitely there somewhere. But I don't know, have you guys been expecting him to come back in some way at some point still, or was that, I mean, this would have been right after he died, basically, that Joe made that prediction. So have we given up on that since then, or what?
I had thought once we had seen Kelsier come back in fake ruin form that was really going to be the end. Like that was not, we weren't going to actually get a Kelsier. We were going to get a fake out Kelsier until we got to the point in the third book when Spook is talking to somebody randomly in a dream and then wakes up and has to deliver some kind of message. At that point, I thought, well, maybe that's supposed to be Kelsier. And then we get the confirmation at the end of the third book that he exists in some form or fashion. But apparently since Finn and Ellender are in the afterlife, that could have meant that he's just in the afterlife as well. But apparently he wanted to be stuck permanently in between, which I'm guessing he got a lot more than he bargained for on that. But...
I think it's a real case, or so far it's a case of be careful what you wish for. Please.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't think we'd see Kelsier again. I figured that he would just be, like a memory or a tool for people to use or something like that. Yeah, sure, if Vin and Ellender in the afterlife, it makes sense that Kelsier's there too, and Sage can probably speak to him there, but I didn't think he would, we'd actually see him in story or in new story again. Mm-hmm. So it was kind of cool to get another viewpoint from him.
Yeah, and apparently Brandon really went back and forth for a long time because, Secret History was published after the most recent Mistborn Era 2 book, so that was like 3-4 years ago now, I think. So that's like almost 10 years that it's like, am I going to bring him back? Am I not? And apparently he went back and forth some, but eventually decided, in this case, the story that he had in mind was justified what he was doing. So we'll see if you guys agree.
It's not so much a case of he's been resurrected.
Yeah,
I know, like,
not really.
Brandon was kind of not really. I think we spoke about probably back in the first book that, like, once they're dead, they're dead. You don't bring them back. He wasn't a big fan of that, if I'm remembering correctly. But if he's not really been resurrected, it's just beyond. So I can kind of buy that more than all of a sudden Kelsey is showing up and it's like, guys, I'm back. I never really left you this whole time. I've been with you. That would kind of be a bit of a cop out, I think, but I like how it's been done so far.
Yeah, he's a wily one, that Kelsier, and then it definitely seems kind of be careful of what you wish for from what we've seen so far. I agree with you. It's like it didn't go that well for him.
No.
Okay, so the next one is from episode 13 of the show. So that's a little more than halfway through, but at this point we're still in the middle of the book, the first book, and the only time we've heard about the Hero of Ages is the little clips from the logbook that we got of the hero as he's going up the mountain, right? So this one is from Jamie. And by the way, this one I've gotten so many emails about this one. When people reach this episode, they're like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe she said that."
I don't think that our Hero of Ages is going to be like Kelsier or Vin, but I was thinking that maybe it could be Sazed.
There you go. I don't even remember saying that.
I kind of figured by this point you would have forgotten that because it was just a random thing that you threw out in the middle of the first book, and then it doesn't come up again, really. We're not that curious about who's the Hero of Ages until the third book. So, but yeah.
There you go. Nailed it.
Meant to do it.
Yep, 100% intentional.
I mean, I'd really just studied the first bit of the book and went, nah, this is not possible.
Oh, but yes, there's so many emails where they're like, "Oh, she said, I can't believe she said that. She's gonna go crazy when she figures it out." And I respond, I'm like, I really doubt that she's gonna remember that she said that.
Yeah, that's funny because I didn't remember her saying that when we did the first book either. Of course, I think we all remember the well thought out theory when we were reading the second book that he would be the Hero of Ages. But that's pretty awesome that she said that back in the first book. I did not remember that at all.
No. Even when I was thinking about it in the second book, I didn't remember I said that in the first book. I probably said it and then immediately forgot about it. I was just like, la da da da.
Yeah, just one of those things you throw out as like, oh, maybe, but who knows?
Yeah, I don't even remember how. I mean, I think maybe the Hero of Ages was mentioned only like a couple of times at that point, and we weren't even sure what it was. And we're just like, oh, well, there's a hero. It's got to be one of our characters, right? And we talked about briefly, like, who could it be? But yeah. It turns out the hero did that. Alendi was not the hero or something, and Sazed was. So good call.
Yeah, thanks.
But yeah, it's funny because like right after that episode, there were emails about it, and then new people watching or like listening through rather, they get to that point and they're, oh, I gotta write an email about this. This is great. So just randomly as we read the books, I get an email about episode 13.
I'm glad I could provide our listeners with something to email about. I swear I didn't read ahead. Yeah, hilarious.
It's funny how long everyone has to wait for that payoff. That's like, like 8-10 months ago now. And they're like, oh, I can't wait till we get to the point where everyone finds out that was right.
Yeah, a payoff. Wow. Yeah, a payoff 10 months in the making. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, and the last one is obviously, since we did Joe and Jamie, is from Dak. And this is all the way back in episode 6. And I don't know. Okay, we'll play it first and then go into it.
What if the atium is the deepness distilled into like metallic form? Into volcanoes. Yeah, got it.
Oh, for God's sake.
So I don't know if that's exactly right, since the mists were the deepness, and the deepness was kind of preservation, but also it was ruin, like making the mists worse to create the deepness. So it may not be the Jamie turns out to be 100% accurate on the spot prediction, but everyone thinks it was very uncanny, like, oh, he's kind of really close to the truth there.
But again, it's one of those predictions I kind of threw out there and then did absolutely nothing with it. So
because eventually we found out what adium does. That was before we even knew what adium does, I think. So it's just like,
oh, really?
What is adium? I don't know, something, right?
Fair point.
Yeah, I mean, the reason I think you came up with the volcano theory was because Data asked us, like, what do you think it does? And so if we're only in episode 6, I think the volcano theory was like episode 2.
Yeah, something like that.
I think it's even funnier because you held on to it. You're like, nope, I am going to die on this hill. This is what it does, and this is just it. And it's like you've actually gotten onto something that's so significant throughout the whole trilogy, and you have no idea just how significant it was.
Well, and really, once we found out what the deepness kind of was, it could have been that he's like, oh, I mean, he basically said, like, adium is, we find out adium is the physical form of ruin. So that was like a huge reveal where it's like, oh, adium is Ruin's body, and he's been looking for it, and that's one of the reasons it's been so important this whole time. And so he kind of hit that early on, where it was like, maybe adium is the physical form of the bad thing, because the deepness was like the evil, unknowable tentacle monster to us at that point. So if you remembered and held on to that, maybe you would have figured out the adium is Ruin thing before anyone else had a chance to. As it is, only the audience remembered, and they're like, oh man, how close was he on that?
Is our insight into the Discord and what goes on there?
Okay, so yes, those are the predicaments. There were other ones, and there were some pretty decent ones from like book 2, and even some good ones from book 3. But by book 3, things are getting so kind of resolved, and we're understanding stuff more, that I was just like, we don't need to pull a bunch out from there. That's, even though up to the end of the book, we still had no idea where things were going. So maybe that's not fair. But anyway.
We definitely have a lot more pieces of the puzzle by the time you're getting into book 3. So it's interesting to finally look at the predicaments that we couldn't talk about at the end of book 1 because they hadn't been resolved at that point. So yeah, a bit more entertaining to go back to the early stuff for sure.
Yep, I've had those sitting in a folder since the end of book 1 when we did the predicaments episode at that time, and I was like, okay, we're keeping these.
Wow.
I added a couple more as we went along, and I was like, maybe we're thinking maybe we'd do a big predicaments episode type thing. But by the time we got here, it's like, nah, we'll do a little piece of it and then move on to other things. Next, I've been promising everyone, especially Dak, for all this time that we were going to look at the hemalurgy chart and try to figure out what any of it meant. And it still doesn't help all that much, but it helps a little more. So and I'm going to use this as our Instagram photo. So if anyone doesn't want to go out and Google the hemalurgy chart, you can look at our Instagram and find the same thing. But basically, we've got the 4 sets of 4 metals and what they can steal and where they have to go on a human body to give these powers.
Well, sort of.
Yeah.
Yeah, like there's a little note over there that says, oh yeah, like there's actually hundreds of points all over the body that any of the spikes could go. This is specifically to make Inquisitors. I'm like, oh, come on.
But it's interesting to see, kind of get a look at it. Like, you can see where the linchpin is that they remove in the first book that they've only talked about up till now. But you can see, like, the dark one right beneath the neck, basically.
Yeah.
But yeah, so different metals take different things, and you got to put them in particular places depending on what the thing is to give those powers.
I think in my head, it was all just, the spike steals the power. But looking at some of these descriptions, like, no, actually, it just steals something from the person. Like, it doesn't have to be a power. It could be an attribute of that person.
Okay, so that's not 100%. Because, like, for instance, it says tin steals senses, but that's like, I think that's like tin is stealing the senses powers. Like, so, well, maybe I'm wrong.
Well, yeah, I don't know, because, like, it has the next to it, the steel one says steals physical allomantic powers, which would include the senses, yeah?
Which would include the senses, you're right, yeah. So maybe I don't even understand this as well as I was thinking. But some of the stuff on here is stuff that you can see on the ferrochemical chart. So when it says, like, if you look at the bottom, Duralumin steals connection / identity. That's something that ferrochemists can, like, store. If you look at the in the back of the second book, had the Ferrochemy Ars Arcanum chart. But it's not stuff that we've discussed because they haven't discussed it in the book. Honestly, they're not quite sure in some cases what that even means. But yeah, I mean, and you're right. It says copper steals like intelligence, so you can take lots of stuff.
Yeah.
But it's interesting that when you look at the god metals, Lerasium can just steal all abilities at the same time. But as far as like, a Mistborn, if you burn some Lerasium, then you get the Mistborn power. So if you had a whole big spike made out of it, that would be kind of a waste.
True.
But Adium can steal any power.
And that's what the epigraphs are talking about. Ruin was pissed at having to just steal one power from someone instead of all of them if they were Mistborn.
Yeah, right.
Not that it needs to be specifically an Atium spike for that, but...
Yeah, right. But if he'd had a Lerasium spike, I guess he could have stolen all the powers. That would have been kind of, once again, a real waste. But
yeah.
And I like that aluminum just removes all the powers. So you could just like stab somebody with an aluminum spike and take all their powers. I don't know.
And that'd actually be like, if they knew about that fighting the Inquisitors, that would actually just be like a bloody nuke.
Right?
It's like, yeah, we got these spikes. They're not going to know what's coming. And like the Inquisitors get stabbed and it's like, hey, that's not meant to happen to us. Oh God, what's happening?
You can make like an aluminum sword and stab somebody with it. Or maybe to become like a ferrochemical spike, it has to like go through and kill somebody first. Yeah, so you'd have to stab somebody through the heart first and then stab an Inquisitor with it.
And then is this also that the spike needs to be placed in that particular area to be effective?
Well, that's a question because all I really have is the chart. But I'm assuming that the different color spikes, it's like if you want to give a physical power, you have to put that spike where one of the physical spikes is showing. That's my guess, but I don't know that for sure. Which, I mean, it would explain why they got two of those dark physical spikes in the eyes for like the physical allomantic power of steel or whatever.
Yeah.
Or maybe one's for iron, one's for steel. I don't know. But so basically, hemalurgy is really complicated. And that's the main thing that we learn.
Very.
I like the bottom
You're being
left.
spiked under the knees. Ugh.
It seems to kind of skip over the knees. So maybe that's
under the knee.
thing.
That would suck.
Well, you struggle to bend your legs properly doing after that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm going to crash. Oh God, I stabbed myself again.
I mean,
they have spikes in the eyes, so
yeah.
Maybe it's just like maybe a knee replacement would work.
It's like I got an artificial kneecap made out of a hemalurgic spike. It's great. But I like even this chart isn't completely sure because in the bottom left it's like chromium might steal destiny.
Yeah, I saw that.
Whatever the heck that means.
The one next to it says steals investiture. What the hell is that?
So okay, yeah. That's something that'll come up as we move further, but basically in the Cosmere, the word investiture means like the power of magic. So, there's an energy to magic, just whatever magic system, whatever planet we're on, it uses an energy in some way, and that magical energy is called investiture.
Right.
Oh, yeah, it's brought up in the essay a couple of times. I feel like they mentioned that phrase, investiture.
I read it pretty much after we finished the last episode, so...
Well, I guess let's go ahead and move over into the chapters that we did this week. And
hold on, before we do, just one other thing.
Yeah.
Under gold, it says steals hybrid ferrochemical powers.
Yeah.
Okay, what?
So, okay, hold on. Let me bring up the ferrochemy chart, because I think that may just be the name of one of the sections of the ferrochemy chart, but I don't remember for 100%. Let me look here.
Okay, I'm just grabbing the second book, too.
So, yes, four of the ferrochemical powers are called hybrid powers. There's like physical, spiritual, cognitive, and hybrid.
Okay.
So, for instance, healing is a hybrid power.
Okay. Right.
Or Electrum stores determination. You enter a depressed state during storage, and then you can tap it later to enter a manic phase. So you can make yourself bipolar with Electrum, basically.
That seems odd.
Yep.
Yeah, right?
We take medication to not feel those ways. I feel like that's counterintuitive, but whatever.
But actually, some of the ferrochemical powers are pretty cool that we haven't seen because either they don't know that metal or it just didn't come up. For instance, cadmium, it says, stores breath. So you have to hyperventilate during storage, but then you can tap it and you don't have to breathe.
Pretty good if you're underwater or something.
Right?
And so begins the Terraceman scuba diving trips.
Yeah, exactly. Or Bendalloy stores nutrition and calories. So you can eat a bunch and store that and then without feeling full or gaining weight, and then you can use that later so that you don't have to eat. And apparently, I think I read that you can use like one for food and a separate one for like liquids.
Hmm.
Man, that would be useful.
Yeah.
This is all just raising further questions.
Right. So yeah, good. Ferrochemy also is more complicated than we even know. Bringing up what we read this time. Going into, I gotta say, one of the things I love about this book is the star charts of each system. I'm just a map person. I love maps, and so the star charts I enjoy. But I do like that we see the old orbit, which I think has got to be during the Final Empire, since it's so much closer to the sun, and then the new orbit that is further away from the sun.
I'm so disappointed it's called the old calendar and the new calendar rather than the Rashek and the Sazed calendars.
That would have been better. Yeah. So these essays are actually written by a character in universe who we will meet at some point, a scholarly type. So that's something to keep in mind. It's all from that person's perspective.
I was going to say, yeah, this doesn't seem like Sazed, but no one else in the books that we've read so far has this information. So
Yeah, it's somebody I'm toying with the idea of naming Space Norden.
I love it.
Oh,
Brilliant.
That's great. This person actually also wrote the Ars Arcanum at the end of each of the books in universe, and you don't see that much personality come out in the Mistborn ones, but in some of the later ones, you can get a feeling that, oh, I see the personality of the person writing this. It's not just dry, like this does this, whatever, you know.
Yeah.
So they're a fairly important character in the meta of the Cosmere, but anyway. So I guess actually before we start into it, what did you guys think of what we read this time? We didn't do that yet. So thoughts?
I mean, pretty good. I honestly, going into Secret History, I'm just like, I don't even know what to expect. I don't know who we're going to see, if anyone we know, or what it's going to be about. I was just completely blank. So then I open up, the first thing I see is Kelsier getting killed, and I'm like, oh, we're back here. Okay. And then, yeah, it was just a lot of fun. It just seemed like, yeah, the whole stuff we read was just interactions between Kelsier, Preservation, and Rashek, and every one of their interactions, I just kept laughing. You know, Kelsier punching out God.
Yep.
Just like, oh, I don't know what else to do, so this usually works for me, and just like, yeah, decks him. And then, like, I think my favorite bit was towards the end, when after Rashek has died, he's come down to the well, taken one look at Kelsier and Preservation standing there, and he's just like, fuck it, I'm out, I'm gone, see ya.
Yeah, I don't blame him.
Yeah. It was just so funny. He's just like, yeah, no, I'm not staying here with you two dweebs.
He's so full of himself even after he dies. It's just like, dude, it turns out you're not God, right? You just died, so maybe take it down a peg.
Yeah. It just seemed like he's like, I know what I'm about. I did my best, didn't work. All right, screw it. I'm not going to waste time lamenting the fact.
It is kind of reminiscent of the plates where he's like, I should probably care, but if you end up reading this and it's actually happening, then I'm going to be dead, so whatever.
I am 1,000 years old. I don't give a fuck.
Imagine being really pissed off, though. You've worked on this project for 1,000 years, and you're like 1 year off.
Oh, yeah.
And someone kills you. Like, I'd be pretty pissed off, too.
That's a good point.
You've lined it all up so perfectly, and then this idiot comes along, not quite knowing the whole picture, arranges for you to be killed, and now the world's going to be destroyed. Like, yeah, I'd be pretty annoyed too.
I like how disdainful he is of Preservation too, because he knows who Preservation is. He knows
Right?
that's where he got his power, but he's just like, ugh, you. I want to move on just so I don't have to stare at you.
It's true. It's kind of surprising. It's like, oh yeah, that's God, but I've been God for 1,000 years as far as I'm concerned, so whatever. I'm not impressed.
I did a better job than you.
I think at one point he even like maybe comments that like, he's weak.
Yeah, so it's close to that. So
I mean, Preservation God is kind of losing it. So
you're not wrong.
you know what? No, I held this together. You had nothing to do with this. Oh my God, just leave me alone. Let me go die in peace, would you? Yeah, I wasn't sure what to expect out of Secret History. I think I thought it might have been more about sort of pre-Well of Ascension type activities, maybe pre-Rashek or something like that. But when we started reading that Kelsier had died and we were getting Kelsier's perspective on what happened next, I was like, oh, okay, this is kind of cool. I enjoy sort of seeing the other side of this, and you know, he didn't just cease to exist, and watching him sort of find out little bits. that we've sort of spent three books learning about, and now this information is all just sort of coming to him, and he's like, what? Oh my God, how's my plan going? And just in classic Kelsier fashion, it's like, well, the rules don't apply to me. Let's go. So I think that was a pretty cool way of looking at it too, and be interesting to sort of see how he interprets all the events. Like, I mean, this first part that we read is, what's it called, Empire, I think.
Mhm.
And when I got to the end of the page, the next chapter, the next part's called Well. So I'm like, okay, maybe there's a part for each book or something he's going to learn about what's coming up in all of the other books. I was like, getting his perspective on this stuff would be really cool. So I am excited to learn more about what he's going to learn.
Yeah, it's kind of frustrating that it takes us 3 books to get some of this information, and then Kelsier dies back in book 1. It's like, oh, let me tell you all this stuff that nobody else knows.
Yeah.
You couldn't have told us back then, jeez.
So I guess my question is, how many chapters are there, or how many parts are there?
There
Yeah.
are, one moment, there are 6 parts.
Okay, so it's not super long. It's just, it's a thing about stuff.
A thing about stuff, correct.
I assume it's going to take, my assumption, and maybe I'm way off base here, is that it's going to take us through Kelsier's perspective of all 3 of the books. But maybe it'll go beyond that. I don't know. That's just the sense I'm getting since we started back at his death at book 1. And then really we only made it to the Lord Ruler's death. So
yeah, still book 1, like 3 chapters later or something.
Exactly. So that would lead me to believe that, we're going to see if Kelsier's kind of stuck to the well when Vin opens the well. I'm wondering if, and releases Ruin, I'm wondering if that kind of releases Kelsier as well, or if he's still stuck there. I'm interested to know what's going to kind of happen with that.
So if he's stuck there at least until then I guess he'd miss like all of book 2 basically.
Maybe by then preservation will be nice enough to him to be like, here, you can hear what's going on. Take a listen.
Look, I'm going out for my visits around town. You want to come with me? Take my hand.
Ghost of Christmas present sort of thing. It's like,
Yeah.
Kelsier.
Or maybe, I don't know, maybe Kelsier is the one that encourages encourages preservation to make himself manifest as the Mistborn spirit. Or maybe Kelsier is the Mistborn spirit, and he just, no, because we know the Mistborn spirit dies at the end of in the 3rd book and falls over, and it's not Kelsier's body.
Yeah, the body is as described here.
Right. But maybe Kelsier's the one that encourages him to actually like reach out and take part in the events that are unfolding.
Yeah, could be. He seems good at encouraging preservation to do things, even if preservation doesn't necessarily want to. Okay, I guess let's do this thing. So this person talks about, in this essay, kind of just general information, but it's like, so the inner system here is empty, except for the one planet, obviously. Which is fortuitous considering the changes the system has. Yeah, if there'd been another planet, like, somewhere in the inner system, as this one moved around, that would probably be bad. The remarkable thing is about Scadrial is how well humankind has flourished despite repeated cataclysms. Yeah, that's a thing that's happened. But it says, other planets have had worse disasters, but on none of them will you find a thriving, technologically advanced society as exists on Scadrial. We don't know necessarily at what point she's writing this, so it could be that she considers the world just after the Final Empire to be technologically advanced, or maybe this is way later.
Can't you just use they? I don't like this he, she trickery.
Oh, it's Orion again, is it?
Yep, it's Orion again.
Oh,
Right.
no.
And they think that if the Lord Ruler hadn't repressed technology for 1,000 years, then Scadrial would be the most advanced planet in the Cosmere, basically. It says, even without the interaction between societies that we enjoy in Silverlight. There's your first look at something that exists somewhere else.
Yep.
Yeah, assuming that's a planet.
Scadrial is another di-shardic planet.
Etymology nerds, die means 2, so we're talking 2 shards here.
Oh gosh, yeah, and I mean it says several times in the essay we have the word shards capitalized.
Shards.
And I have to say, Joe mentions that word last time. He's like, I think so. If this is a sliver, I think maybe we're dealing with like shards or a gem. And
Infinity gem.
Shards is a pretty important concept within the Cosmere. So I totally in the Discord I was like, so Joe says like this one word in this episode that's about to come out, and I was like, didn't say anything out loud, but in my head I was like, how did you just intuit the existence of this concept? I hate you so much.
Of shards?
Yeah.
I thought that shard had been said before.
I don't think so. You were like, it's a sliver, so I think sliver would be part of like a gem
I'm
or a shard.
probably drawing
of a gem.
from my Magic the Gathering knowledge, because honestly, shard magic, blue magic, it's all there. Sliver, because slivers are a thing in Magic the Gathering, although I don't think they're shards, so I don't know. Fantasy roleplay, shards, slivers, it's all the same.
But interestingly, they're like, this is one of the 2 places in the Cosmere that humankind does not predate the arrival of shards. In fact, they're convinced the planet didn't even exist before the shards, Ruin and Preservation, showed up. So Ruin and Preservation are shards.
You got to give that a hard D, man, because I keep thinking you're saying something else.
Shards. It's hard. It's hard D.
Mm-hmm. Oh man, and I thought shard was the funny part, but hard D's even better.
So Ruin and Preservation found a system that didn't have a planet or any planets in the habitable area, and they chose that so they could basically create whatever they wanted. Undoubtedly, they used the humans from Yolen as a model. Indeed, both of them were human before their ascension. So look at all this information that's just flying out here.
I think we kind of figured they
we've
were.
heard and we've
They were
heard
humans before
ascension
gods.
before. We've heard that term.
Well,
so.
the Well of Ascension and such, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they both drop bodies that look distinctly humans. So, but also the flora and fauna on Scadrial are very similar to what you will find on Yolen, the non-Fane parts, of course. Scadrial, well, I guess unless you count Yolen, Scadrial is kind of the most Earth-like planet of the different ones that we will visit. The animals are mostly the animals that you would expect to find on Earth. That is not true of all the other planets, necessarily.
Aside from the occasional blob monster.
Well, yeah, but we know that those were created artificially by the Lord Ruler, right? So,
Are there animals on Scadrial besides the created ones that are different than ones on Earth? Could you give us an
not
example?
off the top of my head. I don't think. Yeah, I think if we're not counting the created ones like Kolos and Mist Wraiths, I think all the rest are going to be animals that we know from Earth.
You see how you just called a Kolos an animal?
Well,
How
yeah.
insensitive.
Kolos are people too.
Human is human, so
Violent, spiky people, but people nonetheless.
okay, and the planet is exactly 1.0 Cosmere standard in size. Good to know, right?
The maths section.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I was worried about
And it
the
just talks
size of
about-
the planet in proportion to the other planets that I don't know anything about.
Well, they're writing an essay about the system and the planet, so that's the kind of stuff that goes in there. And I like that they're like, okay, so I can't really speak to the personalities of the vessels. That's not my field. If you want to know about that, talk to one of my colleagues who specializes in pre-shattering biography and history rather than an arcanist. There's just all kinds of stuff mixed up in there that it's like, oh, what is this even? Okay.
Yeah, this is all just like this is stuff that will be relevant later. Like, there's a lot going to happen between now and then.
Yeah, just remember all these terms I'm throwing at you because it's going to be a thing.
Oh, gosh. But
Pre-shattering. Come on.
Yeah, pre-shattering. If you know your etymology, pre is before.
Sure. Shat is to poop. I get it.
No, I don't think that's. Oh my god.
So somebody shat a ring, but this happened before.
So, they're like there's a lot of magic here. I would challenge someone to identify another planet, save Roshar. That's the planet from Stormlight, by the way, where one can find such strength of investiture so commonly in the hands of mortals. So yeah, investiture, magical energy, lots of it.
There it
in the
is.
hands of normal people.
Yep.
Investiture.
And I like how annoyed the note is that it's like, yeah, the planet's literally been moved, which, by the way, makes it horrible trying to keep track of history because of the different calendars. That is the kind of thing that just would drive like someone studying this place crazy. It's like, okay, so you're telling me that a year was like 5 months at one point, and then it was 10 months at another point? How the fuck am I supposed to track that? But what this person finds most interesting about the magic, or at least has the largest potential to impact the Cosmere, is hemalurgy. Usable by anyone with the right knowledge, this dangerous creation has proven able to warp souls regardless of planet or investiture.
Wait, so I want to back up there for a second.
Mm-hmm.
If they said a year was 5 months when it was closer to the sun, that means Vin can't have been 20. Her age wouldn't have been right. That doesn't make any sense.
I was just throwing out a random number. I don't know.
I was like, I don't remember that part in there, but that doesn't make any sense.
I don't know how long a year actually was.
Yeah,
but
they'd have to calculate it differently, I guess, because it couldn't just be, their science couldn't have just said it was one revolution around the Earth. Because I mean, that's true. If you're closer to the sun, you're going to revolve around it much quicker.
Yep. So maybe Vin wasn't 16 years old in our years. She was like
12.
That's creepy. No, let's.
Yeah, that is creepy.
Maybe it went the other way. Maybe their year was 12 months and now it's like 14 months or something.
Yeah, it could be too.
Maybe.
Yeah.
The system itself is kind of boring, but the planet is interesting, especially since people used to live on a very small section of it. That's basically it. It's just like, this place is really interesting to me as someone who studies magic, an arcanist, as it said.
Yeah, it's like, oh, we're entering Name of the Wind territory now.
Right? It does feel a little bit Name of the Windy. Okay, so to the actual chapters. The essays are one of my favorite parts, maybe my favorite part other than the charts about Arcanum Unbounded, but it definitely is more impactful when you know what the heck they're talking about. So I get that it's you guys are just like, this just raises more questions. I don't understand half the stuff that they said. So we start all the way back at Kelsier versus the Lord Ruler, which, yeah, when I first read it, that's not where I expected to be either. I didn't know what to expect from Secret History, but it wasn't, hey, let's go back and see what happened to Kelsier after he died. And I like that we're in his head, and he uses the 11th metal, and he sees that same thing that Vin saw of like another person standing next to the Lord Ruler who's basically looks like that mountain guide that Rashek was once upon a time. And Kelsier thinks, can I use this? No, nothing useful here.
Damn you, Gemmel.
So he definitely does not make the connection that Vin eventually makes, but you can't necessarily blame him for that.
I think the weirdest part about all this is like the other image he sees of Rashek is he looks very happy and smiling. I'm like, when was Rashek ever a nice guy? Even before he ascended, Alendi and Quan both said he was kind of a dick.
That's true.
They said he was hot-headed.
Okay.
Well, and he was especially hateful of people like Alendi's nationality or whatever. So maybe when he wasn't around those guys, he was happy.
Maybe.
And we get the scene where the Lord was like, I killed you, and Kelsier gives his speech about like, I am hope, you can't kill me. And then he gets slapped really hard, and he's like, wow, that hurt. There was a tearing sensation. And like he stands up after a minute, and he's like, he was alive, kind of. But he's just like in this misty place with nothing really. There's a tiny sun, but nothing else really solid. And he's like, well, that was thoroughly awful. Which, yeah, dying, not usually super fun. It did seem there was an afterlife, which was a pleasant discovery. And gradually the place starts to solidify into not really solid, but it's like the mist kind of turns into shapes that he can sort of tell what they are. And also things that are made of metal start to glow. And then he notices that there's other glowing things. And when he gets closer, they are people. It's like there's a glow within them. And he's like, oh, so metal and souls are the same thing. Who would have thought? Looks down, sees his corpse. He's like, oh, well, that sucks. Vin shows up and is kneeling over his body. And he says, child, I'm sorry. And he touches her, and he gets, like, when he touches her, he gets, like, a more solid picture of her with her tears and stuff. And he feels kind of bad about the last thing he said to her, because if you remember, the last thing he said was, like, you still have a lot to learn about friendship.
It wasn't exactly nice parting words.
He wasn't wrong either, but yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, Kelsier didn't think something through? Shock.
Well, and he also didn't know he was going to die right then.
That's true. It's like he burned the 11th metal and like saw the two things. Like, well, that didn't work. Guess we're back to plan B. Shit.
Well, he didn't necessarily expect the Lord Ruler to show up when he went off to that fight to rescue like Spook and people, but that turned out to be a trap with an Inquisitor driving the carriage and such. So these things happen.
It was a busy day.
And then Ham comes to drag Vin off, and that's when the mysterious voice shows up. It's like, you let him kill you. And Kelsier turns around, he's like, oh geez, it's a guy, and not like a misty guy like everyone else, but it's a dude with a wool coat that goes down almost to his feet, and a conical skirt, and a knife in his belt.
So now we know how the Mist Spirit stabs people.
Yeah, exactly. He's short with black hair and a prominent nose, which I don't remember if that description. I feel like the nose part of the description may have been back in the body that's dropped in Hero of Ages too.
I went back and checked the book. Like, that's definitely it.
Yeah.
And Kelsier's like, who are you? And the guy's like, oh, I think you know. And he looks into his eyes, and they're deep, eternal pools or whatever. And Kelsier goes, oh, hell, there's actually a god? And when the guy says yes, it says Kelsier decked him.
Brilliant.
Of course he did.
God didn't dodge. So Kelsier's punching him right in the face. And Kelsier has kind of a point. He's like, what the hell is wrong with you? If you're real, how do you let this crap happen? Because right now the Inquisitors are out there, like, attacking the crowd with their axes and slaughtering indiscriminately. And dude is like, I do what I can, man. It is in motion, you see. And we have to remember, we know that Preservation gave up most of his mind to seal Ruin into his prison like thousands of years ago. So this is just the brain that's left over, the little bit of intelligence that wasn't destroyed then. And then other people start showing up, and each one of them also has the same guy pop up standing next to them. And Preservation stands up, he's like, dude, nobody's ever done that before. And Kelsier's like, what, really? Like, I feel like somebody should have. But souls are usually too disoriented, which, yeah, for most people, probably death's kind of disorienting experience. I could get that. Some of them do run, though. And then he sees a dead Ska woman who's appeared in here, and she fades, but not fades exactly. She stretches to like some distant point and vanishes. And Kelsier's like, okay, so what is going on here? And Preservation's like, well, you didn't think this was it, really? Like, this is not the afterlife. This is just the in-between part before beyond the somewhere else where souls go. It takes longer for Allomancers to go than for normal people, but everyone goes. And Preservation tries to show up whenever each person dies to comfort them as they move on. So that's nice.
Man, it just sounds busy.
Yeah, but apparently he can like produce a bunch of himself, so
I guess.
One of them can be like kicking up watching some TV while the others are doing the stuff.
Yeah, it's a very Dr. Manhattan feel. It's just like, I'm going to do this while my other piece of me is doing this. It's like, you didn't stop working when you were having sex with me? It's like, no, I made my other part of me do that.
It's very important work,
Yep.
Also, apparently most people go willingly, so it's not too bad, I guess. Kelsey is the first one to deck him, so...
I feel like that's the kind of thing Doxson might have done. But then again, Doxson's not an Allomancer, so he doesn't stay very long, I guess.
Damn it. I was kind of banking on him showing up and having a part in these books. And now you said that. It's like, oh, you're right. Shit. I'm still bitter over his loss.
And then Kelsier decides that he can feel the tug. And he's like, nope, not yet. We need a plan. And Preservation's like, wait, a plan? It's like, to get me out of this. I might need your help. He's like, there's not a way out of this. And Kelsier says, that's a terrible attitude. We'll never get anything done if you talk like that.
All I could hear was Dak going, not with that attitude.
Yeah. And dude's trying to like comment. He's like, hey, it's okay to feel uncertain. A lot of people get anxious, but he's trying to comfort him. And Kelsier's like, yeah, whatever. I don't have time for that. Has anyone ever not been pulled into the beyond? And the guy's like, no, everybody, I told you, everybody goes. And Kelsier says, you got to have some idea what I could try, Fuzz. He's like, what did you call me? He's like, I got to call you something. So Fuzz. And dude's like, you could try my lord. And Kelsier says, that's a terrible nickname for a crew member. Which, to be fair, Fuzz does sound like a name that would fit among Kelsier's crew.
Fuzz, Spook, I mean, come on. Clubs.
Ham, Breeze, yeah.
Docs. Vin.
Yeah, Vin's name was just conveniently... I guess
right
Kelsier,
length.
too. Kelsier doesn't have, like, a nickname.
Her real name is actually Vincenza, and he shortened it.
Breen shortened it. It's like, no,
Yep.
we can't get you into one of these thieving crews with that name. And Kelsier's like, okay, look, I need a team, and as you can see, I don't have a lot of options. I'd rather have Docs, but, you'll have to do. And he's just like, okay, look, you said you want to come for me, right? Well, this is how you come for me. Just humor me, because you said that it's not going to matter what I do, right? And God sighs. He's like, okay, well, it would be better if you accepted what was happening and moved on. And he tells Kelsier, you're a distinctively strange man. And Kelsier says, you don't know my friends. Next to them, I'm normal. Ideas, please. I don't think that that's fair. Kelsier's friends are not stranger than him.
In fact, most of their conversations about him talked about how weird he was to them.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
He's not going to admit that to a god.
Yeah. He's like, they're not here to stick up for themselves. They're weird. I'm not.
But Kelsier is very quickly running his scam on this god, and he manages to fast talk him pretty well into revealing some information, such as he's like, okay, well, why are you here? You don't get pulled to the beyond. And he's like, well, I'm a god. And Kelsier's like, a god, not capital G god. Got it. Noted for later use. And he's like, okay, well, so why is a god immune? What about you makes you immune? And he's like, well, everything. It's like, I can't help but thinking you aren't pulling your weight on this team, Fuzz. Come on. So we find out allomancers last longer, and so do ferochemists. So Kelsier's like, okay, people with power. And in point of fact, it is, going back to that term investiture, it's people who have magical powers are invested, as they put it. Their souls have this energy, more energy. So that is why they're lasting longer here. And he's like, well, what about the Lord Ruler? He doesn't die. And Fuzz is like, well, he has, he's a special case. He has his whole thing that he doesn't die in the first place, so he doesn't have to worry about going on.
I really feel like Preservation is the beleaguered guy in IT support. He's just trying to help people solve their problem and get on with things. And then he's got this one guy on the phone in Kelsier who just won't stop asking questions. And Preservation's like, look, I've told you what you need to do. You just need to do this, and then your problems are solved. And he's like, no, I need to do this first. And Preservation's like, for God's sake. And then they mention the Lord Ruler, and he's just like, oh, that guy never needs tech support. He's fantastic. He sorts his shit out.
Yeah, he's my favorite. You're the worst. Thank you for calling for tech support.
I like that simile, because it's very much he's just frustrated and sighing with him, and he's like, I don't even have to be here. I choose to try to comfort everyone as they die, and this is some bull.
It's like, I am trying to help you. Stop not accepting my help.
But he finds out that the Lord Ruler held enough power to expand his soul when he ascended. And Kelsier's like, aha, so there I got to figure out how to expand my soul. Got it. See, we're already making progress. And God says, oh yeah, seeing the Lord Ruler expand his soul, that was great. He's now preserved with a capital P. I'm glad you didn't find a way to destroy him. And so you can see Preservation, his desire to preserve, where it's just like, this guy is the best because he doesn't die. He's like the one thing that is permanently preserved. It's awesome. It's my favorite. And Kelsier's like, but he's a tyrant, Fuzz. And Preservation's like, well, yeah, but he doesn't change. It's so great.
Consistency.
He's consistently a tyrant. That's what I like about him.
So predictable.
Well, and he makes a point where he's like, Kelsier's like, why don't you get rid of him and help? And he's like, well, but that would be hasty. I mean, if we got rid of him, then there would just be a more transient leader who wasn't immortal, and so people would be overthrowing other people, killing people, cats and dogs, living together, mass hysteria.
And I mean, with the Siege of Luthadel, he's not wrong.
It is kind of exactly what happened after the Lord Ruler died. So he kind of knows what he's talking about. Kelsier didn't plan that far ahead, didn't think necessarily about what was going to happen after. So, and he doesn't care to listen when Preservation is trying to explain this to him.
It's like, dude just killed me. I don't need to hear how great you think he is.
Yeah, no, I can see how you'd hold a grudge there. Yeah. And Kelsier's like, well, hey, if you love watching somebody expand their soul so much, why don't I do that? And he's like, no. The power at the Well of Ascension won't be ready for a year yet, so. And he just keeps dropping these breadcrumbs for Kelsier to pick up. And Kelsier's like, oh, power's coming back to the Well of Ascension, huh? Okay. And Fuss is like, oh, Yeah, but I mean, it's really far away, so it's too bad. I guess you'll just have to go. And Kelsier's like, okay, so it turns out God's a terrible liar. Also good to know. And Preservation's like, no, I don't want to let you go to the Well of Ascension because you might just add to his power, so you're gonna have to go. Which we know that Ruin is stuck in there, so I guess Preservation is worried that it's gonna add to Ruin's power to put Kelsier, his energy could add to Ruin. That would be bad. If
he was banging on about how Ruin is leaking and everything else. So.
And then Kelsier has a gambit where he's like, okay, I guess I'll just sit down and let myself go.
Kelsier being dramatic again.
He is such a drama queen.
I like how his response was like, yeah, that's it.
That's the ticket.
No, you're getting it.
And so he's like, hey, what did you ask me when I first showed up? He's like, oh, right, you let him kill you. I didn't expect that. And Kelsier says, but you're God. Can't you see the future? And he says, well, a little bit. There's so many possibilities. It's hard to pick out this one. I didn't see this one among all those possibilities. And he's like, you didn't even try to fight him. And Kelsier's like, well, I used the 11th metal. And he's like, oh, that's foolishness. That was Ruin's influence on you, which we know it kind of was.
Yep.
But Preservation doesn't understand, like, why did he want you to have that metal? But also Preservation was really impressed by that fight with the Inquisitor. He's like, I've seen a lot of shit, and that was pretty good.
Like the rest of us, that was his favorite part of the book.
And he says that Kelsier's like, I saw this past version of him, but I also saw like the moment that he was at the Well of Ascension, which I kind of skipped over that when we were reviewing, but he saw as he's dying, like this moment. And Preservation's like, okay, oh. So yeah, like metal being flared during the transition, you got a glimpse into the spiritual realm. His connection and his past. You were using Addie's essence, unfortunately. One shouldn't trust it, even in diluted form. So, do we have any idea what that is?
Well, from the way he's talking, it seems like is Atty Ruin's real name or his pre-ascension name or something?
Yeah, that's what I was guessing.
Yeah, he's like really down on it. It's like, oh yeah, that's a bad thing. Like, you don't want to use that sort of influence. I'm just like, that's exactly what you were saying about Ruin's power a second ago. So
yeah, and I mean Addium, so that would kind of fits.
And the 11th metal is an alloy of Addium and gold. So yeah, there's your diluted form of you guys.
Yeah.
Wait, what was the metal, the bead metal that gives him powers called?
Leracium.
So maybe his name is Liras? Preservation.
Leroy.
Leroy. No, yeah, maybe his name's Liras or Laris.
And Kelsier's like, wait, another god? And you say you trapped him. He's like, yeah, he's going to get out eventually, but the prison isn't my last gambit. It can't be. So we're sitting here at Preservation that doesn't even have any idea about his own plans because most of his brain is gone.
Like, what did I do last century?
But Kelsier starts thinking, maybe I should just go. And he kind of starts drifting. And God's like, yeah, there you go. Good job, Kelsier. Farewell. You served him more often than you did me, but I can respect your intentions and your remarkable ability to preserve yourself. And Kelsier's like, I saw it, the Well of Ascension, in a cave. And Fuzz's like, yeah, that's where I put it. But he moved it. Yeah, of course he did. Where would the Lord Ruler move it to? And then he figures it out. A building within a building, hidden within the palace. And he opens his eyes and starts to run. And Preservation realizes that he's been hoodwinked. Although he doesn't quite realize. Like, he's just like, oh, so he just thinks that Kelsier's running. He's like, you are a runner. You're not going to accomplish anything. And it's not until a minute later that he realizes, oh, he calls him a zinc-tongued raven when he figures out where he's going. He's like, you're not going to reach it in time. Because he's already starting to stretch out to that infinity point. And Kelsier's like, please, you want to see something spectacular? Help me live and I will show you spectacular. And finally, the desire to preserve kind of overcomes what you might call good sense in this case. And he's like, okay, Kelsier, be preserved. And he gives him a shove into the well.
He's like, be preserved. I don't think you're going to like it, but...
He tried to warn him that it's not a great idea, but Kelsier's not good at taking advice.
He goes, "This is preservation," and boots him in.
But so yeah, Kelsier he's in the well, and he's like, yeah, so you're part of the power now, Kelsier. He's like, yeah, I can feel it. Like, you're trapped in there, of course. I did warn you, this is a prison. And Kelsier goes, well, but I'm alive. And he says, according to a very loose definition of the word. And Kelsier's like, yeah, good enough. The survivor is living up to his name. And then in the second chapter, it starts out with immortality was proving to be more frustrating than Kelsier had anticipated.
He's just going, boring.
And the thing is, we know at this point, because this is before the Lord Ruler dies, which is like the night after Kelsier dies. So he hasn't been here for a few hours yet. And he's like, this place sucks. I'm already sick of being immortal. And he's like, no, yeah, it's a prison. I can't walk very far from this pool before I'm basically like pulled back by spirit chains or something. Or misty chains. He spends hours trying to break free before he gives up. Like, dude, God told you it was a prison. Maybe you should have listened.
Yeah, but he's also kind of scatterbrained.
You're not wrong.
It's like, oh, I thought this was the prison. Turns out this is actually just like, this is just the pantry.
Go have
the other one was
cereal.
the prison. Shit, my bad.
I like the thought that there's a second wall of ascension, but it's just where preservation keeps his dry goods. But I like that it says that a short time after Kelsier's preservation, Fuzz just got distracted by something and disappeared. So Kelsier's just sitting alone in this prison well.
Yeah, I'm just like, now even Fuzz is gone. Wish Spook was here.
And he's just sitting there like, what happened? I mean, is the plan going to work? And then some Inquisitors show up. He can't tell what they are at first, but their eyes are, I guess, glowing with metal. And he's like, oh, okay, those are Inquisitors. And they've got a dead headless Inquisitor with them, the one that Kelsier just killed, and a jar of liquid with spikes that they're carrying. And Fuzz shows up. He's like, oh, yeah, they store the spikes in blood so that they can use them again. Because we know that if a spike is out of a body, it gradually loses energy. We learned that in Hero of Ages. Apparently, if you shove it in a jar of blood, it kind of stops the degradation.
Hemalurgy. Come on. Etymology again.
Yeah. Yeah, but nothing in that name implies they need to be pickled.
You put some dill in there with the blood, it'll be great. And Kelsey's like, do they do this a lot? And he's like, yeah, every time one of them dies. I don't think they even know what they're doing. There's no point in tossing a body into the pool.
Ruin just likes the smell.
And let's see. Yeah, they toss the body into the well and then the head, and they both just evaporate. So maybe you don't want to step into the pool is what we're learning. I don't know. But Fuzz is here, and Kelsey's like, hey, dude, listen, is my plan working? And Fuzz is like, plan? Yeah, I had a plan once, back when I was smart. And Kelsey's like, no, my plan. We were doing this whole thing. And Fuzz is like, yeah, whatever. And he's like, he's killing me, you know. He wants me gone before the next cycle. Maybe I can hold out. You hear me, Ruin? I'm not dead yet. And Kelsey's like, oh, shit, God's going insane. This is just what I need. And so he's like, I know you can change what I write. You've made our religion all about you. They hardly even remember the truth anymore. And then he's kind of just ranting, and Kelsier's just there to hear it. He's like, I needed a sign, something he couldn't change. A sign of the weapon. The boiling point of water? Maybe freezing point? But what if the unit's changed? So he's like, he leans in and whispers, 16. And Kelsier's like, what the fuck? 16? What?
It's the age of consent for me.
Oh, no. And Fuzz is like, what? Don't you think that's clever? 16, come on. And Kelsey's like, because why? And Fuzz is like, the number of metals in Allomancy. Duh. Because like, there's only 10. I mean, 11 if you count the new one that I found. And Fuzz is like, no, that's stupid. 16. Oh, gosh. Sure, they're sure to see. They'll have to see.
Don't be an idiot, you idiot.
And we know
That's
that
stupid. You're stupid. Stop being stupid.
They came very close to completely missing that. It wasn't until almost the end that they figured out that 16 was important. And then, of course, Yeoman is like, oh, yeah, no, 16, the number of elementic metals, sure. Not that I know what they are, but yeah, that's got to be. So Yeoman got it at least, kind of. He understood the importance of 16.
And told no one.
Yeah. But then Fuzz is like, jerks his head up towards the ceiling, and he's just like, what did you do? And Kelsier's smiling. He's like, ha, I have hoped. Which, that's a stupid... Shut up, Kelsier. He's like, he was perfect. He was the only one of you that... And then the Lord Ruler spirit shows up, still clothed in black and white.
Young Marilyn Manson.
Yeah, right, exactly. Bringing it back. And he just kind of strolls into the room, looks over at Kelsier, is like, I killed you twice.
Why is this guy still here? Why would he leave me alone?
Why won't he go? And then I think my favorite line of the thing is when Kelsier's like, yeah, we're all aware of how strikingly incompetent you are. I'm glad to see that you're beginning to see it yourself. That's the first step towards change. That's just classic. And now he can say whatever he wants to Lord Ruler now. He doesn't have to worry about getting killed again. And his eyes passed over Fuzz, and the Lord Ruler gave him not much consideration. He's more interested in Kelsier than he is in the god standing there. And he's like, that grin is insufferable. I did kill you. And Fuzz kind of steps into the conversation, be like, it's my duty to be with you during the transition. And Lord Ruler's like, shut up. And the Lord Ruler wants Kelsier to know, it's like, you think you won, but you have doomed everyone. You've brought ruin upon the world. You're just one of his pawns, thinking you control your own destiny. Like, only a year, so close, and I would have again ransomed this undeserving planet. See, even dead, he's still a superior asshole. So, once again, don't feel bad about him.
Yeah, all that talk in Hero of Ages, like, he wasn't a bad guy. He really was.
He was. He did some good things, or he tried some good things, but he still was a terrible person.
Yeah.
He was like, I was going to save all you people. Not that you deserve it, but I was gonna. Jerk. And Fuzz is still trying to be like, this is just an in-between step. You're going to move on. Your soul will move on.
He's going off script.
Please move on. Please go.
But when he calls him Rorschach, Kelsier gets it, which you have to put it right in his face and be like, hey, this is Rorschach. He's like, oh, of course. He's really the terrorist Pac-Man guy. And that's how you've been immortal? It's a trick? How'd you become an Allomancer? Lord Ruler not interested in answering any of his questions. He just kind of sticks his hand into the light and kind of runs it around in there like, huh, that's interesting. Well, whatever. Kelsier's like, so what now? You gonna stay here? And Lord Ruler laughs at him. He's like, with an impotent mouse and a half-blooded rat, please. And then he just closes his eyes and goes. So I guess Kelsier is the half-blood rat and Preservation is the impotent mouse.
Yeah, I would say so.
That's what I thought, yeah.
I feel like he's making Kelsier out to be bigger than, like, because the rat is bigger than a mouse, right? So he's...
Well, Kelsier has control of his faculties.
That's a good point. I was thinking maybe he just hates rats more than mice. So he was like, you're the rat. I hate you.
That's fair.
And Kelsier's like, wait, he left? And Fuzz is like, yeah, he went to somewhere else. I mean, everything passes. Nothing's eternal. That's what Addie always said. And Kelsier's like, but he could have stayed. And Fuzz is like, I told you, by this point, rational people want to go. Sane people don't want to stay imprisoned in a freaky fountain thing. And then Kelsier's just standing there. Fuzz leaves, and Kelsier's just standing there staring at the columns and waiting for something. He's like, wasn't sure what. Confirmation, celebration, some sort of change. But nobody comes. Were the Ska the rulers of society? He would have liked to see the deaths of the noble ranks treated in turn as they had treated their slaves. So he's going to be kind of disappointed, I think.
Yeah.
All he can do is sit and wait, and that is the end of what we read. So this is a good news, bad news set of chapters for Kelsier. Or bad news, bad news. Like, you died, but you lived, but it sucks. So I don't know. Let's
Take
do
the good, you take the bad, you take them both. There you
and then
have. Facts life.
we have 5 parts left. Some of them are longer than this one. This is one of the shorter parts, actually, I think. Where do you guys think this is going to go? We talked about that a little bit, but let's do some predicaments. What do you guys think is going to happen in Secret History now that we have at least some concept of what it's about?
Well, yeah, like I said, I was kind of hoping that we would just get more Doxson, but like he's not an Allomancer, so he's probably not going to hang around that long. And even if he did, he dies before Vin releases the power at the well. So let's assume that when she releases the power, Kelsier gets out and is free to roam the land as an invisible ghost. He's not going to meet up with Doxson because Doxson will be gone by that point. Probably Clubs will be too, but he'll probably hang around and just watch the stuff happening in Hero of Ages. And I'm not sure if he's had a conversation with Ruin or if that'll happen before he gets released from the well, because it seems like they're both in there. Like Preservation is yelling at Ruin while he's down there, so it's like, can Ruin yell back?
Maybe they'll be friends. Like, how long you in for, bro? Eternity. Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then they'll have a falling out when Kelsier realizes he's been using Vin for his own ends, and Ruin's like, dude, that's exactly what you were doing.
He's
Not wrong.
This is the third spin-off sitcom, Kelsier and Ruin.
Trouble in the well.
It would be nice to get another scene of Kelsier and Doxson, right? Doxson dies, like, cursing Kelsier, so imagine if Kelsier gets to be there when he crosses over to the other side, and the first thing he sees is Kelsier, and he's like, fuck you! Or maybe he's like, oh man, I love you so much, why'd you leave me, Kel? I always hated you the most. Blair.
I miss Doxson.
Who doesn't?
Brandon, apparently.
Bye, Doxson. Okay, predicaments. So I think that Joe was right with Kelsier speaking to Spook. Perhaps if Spook has just temporarily crossed over. I don't know if you can go back. I don't know if that's a situation you didn't really die, but you saw the light. Maybe Kelsier has spoken to him, like real Kelsier. So I think that's pretty on the money. I also think that maybe Kelsier is the mist ghost that stabbed Elend. Not necessarily the mist ghost that was out and about, but it does seem like a convenient location for Kelsier to be. And if he's been there long enough, maybe he can, by that point, manifest himself or have stolen Preservation's knife or something. It just doesn't sound like something Preservation would try and do to stab him. I don't know. But I think maybe that will happen there as well.
I like this idea that Kelsier is going to, like, pick his pocket and take his knife. That'd be awesome.
Yeah. Or maybe he finds his own knife or fashions his own knife. I don't know. Be interesting to see, but he's sort of in that perfect position. If he's tethered to the well, that puts him, right in the exact spot to be able to do something pretty drastic to make things happen. So
Yeah, he's in the right place for that moment, definitely.
yeah, but that's all I've got really.
All right.
Yeah, I think I talked a little bit about this in the middle of what we were talking about here, but I think this is really going to be Secret History from Kelsier's perspective, basically all 3 of the books, and maybe even a little bit past, so that we can kind of see maybe him interact with Sazed a little bit. So yeah, I think Kelsier will kind of be able to somehow project his consciousness like Preservation ends up doing, and be able to kind of see the things that are happening, or maybe Preservation will give him that insight. And whether encouraged by Preservation to act or Kelsier manifests his own powers, I think that they are going to kind of be the ones we've seen in the background of these books kind of push the characters towards certain things. And I think we'll definitely see that pick up in the 3rd book during Secret History. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I kind of like getting this kind of background stuff, and to know that Kelsier is looking on through the Force, or whatever you want to call it. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's going to give us, I'll just say, it's going to give us a lot of interesting opportunities to see some stuff from a different angle. So that'll be nice. Okay. For next time, we are reading part 2, which is 4 chapters long, 2 of them being very, very short chapters, like the shortest stuff we've ever read, basically. But so 4 chapters, we're reading part 2, Well. Not even the well, it's just Well. I feel like you're like, oh well. So yes, that is next time. Shouldn't take us too terribly long to read that one. We have lots of emails this time, but because we're going to record these back to back, I'm going to do, we got like 6 emails. I'm going to do like 3 this time. We'll do 3 for the next one, since it's unlikely we will get more before we do the next record. So, let's see. We got one from Caden. It says, finally caught up. Great podcast. 5 stars. Hi, found your podcast a couple weeks ago. I finished all the Cosmere books a couple months back, and I am always looking for a good book club that discusses everything in detail as you guys do. My job, ship designer, prevents me from watching YouTube while working from home, but listening to audiobooks and podcasts has been a godsend. It helps me ward off the feeling that I'm alone in my home and keeps me entertained. The only problem is I end up binging through a lot of episodes every day, and now that I finally caught up, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'll have to go find a large book series to listen to. Lightbringer series seems like a good candidate. Sorry for the rant. I keep hearing Lightbringer is good. I might do that at some point. I'm on book 5 of the Wheel of Time now, so.
Holy shit! I'm
still
still
not-
at book 4. You just powered
really?
through.
Yeah, I read. Once I start reading, I go pretty quick.
Yep, he has been known to do that.
I'm still not sure I love the series, but I don't hate it, so continuing is going to happen for now at least. He says, about the podcast, it was great, good quality, intelligent participants. I couldn't pick up even a third of what you guys picked up in your read through. Looking forward to the next episode. Thanks for the company through the worst times. Jealous I don't have a friend group like yours who shares similar interests. P.S. Awaiting excitedly for others' minds to be blown reading Secret History. From new fan Caden. So, yeah. I'm also waiting to see minds blown multiple times as we read Secret History. We'll see if it happens. Jamie's just going to be like, oh, no, I predicted that. I know exactly.
Our minds are apparently going to be blown, you guys.
I'm excited for that.
I think
Spoiler alert.
I think Kelsier being alive was, and the fact that we're going to follow him after his death, well, alive, quote unquote, was
Yeah,
supposed
I
to
mean,
be
alive.
the first mind-blowing thing. It's like, oh, geez, this is a Kelsier story?
Yeah. All I'm saying is I'm going in pre-blown now. Thanks for that, Caden.
Oh, some places you'd have to pay extra for that. The next one is from Angela Prime. It says, hey, someone asked whether those who email remember if they've emailed or if it's a surprise, so I thought as a frequent emailer I would weigh in. I usually remember that I've emailed, but there is a span of like 3-ish episodes that the email could be featured in, depending on when I sent it or in when you guys are recording, and whether you get a lot of emails in a given week. So when my emails are read, I'm always a little bit surprised, even if I should have expected it. Yeah, that makes sense. We're not shocking Angela, at least. But there's a little like, oh, yay, this is my email time.
I guess it depends on how up to date you are as well. Like if you've emailed and you're fairly early on, or you know, a late comer to the podcast, could be a really long time before you hear your email. Whereas Angela's emailing us fairly frequently and is pretty up to date. So
yeah, she's usually pretty up to date. Sometimes
Yeah.
she's like, oh, I was working a lot, so I've missed the last like few weeks, and then she powers through them. Or you could be Caden powering through them, and so got through them all in like a couple of weeks, I think he said. So
it's a solid
Yeah.
effort.
right.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm not even doing that when they pop up on my feed. I usually just go to the end because that's when the predictions are and when we get the emails, so it reminds me of what's been going on.
We actually also have an email from Angela 2, but I'm going to save Angela 2 for tomorrow since we have an Angela Prime today. Totally works.
Ooh. So by tomorrow for them, you mean next week?
Well, yeah, sorry. We're recording these back to back, like I said, more or less. So the last one we're going to do today is from Bernardo. It says, hey, Data, new emailer here. I was just listening to this week's podcast and realized how much you guys love to spin some elements of the book into alternate shows. So I have a challenge for you. It says Quandavision.
Ooh.
WandaVision. Sure.
Before I say anything else, I'll let you guys go. What's Quandavision about?
Quandavision is the story of Quan running through the world while Rashek tries to track him down and turn him into a blob monster.
Ooh.
It's basically The Fugitive starring Quan.
I was about to say, that's The Fugitive. That's what we're... okay.
Yeah. For me, Quandavision is when Quan finds the body of Alendi and uses weird ferochemy powers to make like a world where he and Alendi are buddies again, and they're still and you know he's making a perfect world, but then outside forces, aka Rashek, come in and say, hey man, this isn't right, you're torturing these people. And then
That sounds like
you know,
Rashek.
so then
Yeah, he hates
exactly.
torturing people.
Yeah, exactly. And so
That's
then
my
Quan's like,
thing.
you're right. He's like, you're right. I'm gonna roam the earth.
Like Kung Fu?
Sure. Or Jules in Pulp Fiction.
Right. Gotcha.
And then the next door neighbor with a catchy theme song can be the tree that can think.
Yeah, it's the tree. Exactly.
Sure.
We call him Barky.
Barky.
In Kung Fu, the guy's name is Kane, right? So
Yeah.
Quan fits.
Sure. One syllable with a K. Yeah. So he says, I have no idea what the show might be about, perhaps talking trees, but the name seemed too funny not to share.
It is very clever. I'm going to go with it's Quan living in a share house with a whole bunch of inquisitors.
Ooh.
Yeah.
We did talk about
like real
back
world
then,
style, or
what if Quan was the first inquisitor or something? So
Yeah.
Quan's the darling of reality TV.
There's this new upstart in the house that no one likes. His name is Carr.
Oh, that guy.
Carr and Quan, there's a show. I don't know
Yeah.
what they do, but
Carr's trying to get close to my nephew, but he doesn't know. My nephew, he doesn't care.
or maybe it's more like what was Carr's wife? We decided. Did I remember her name?
Karen.
Karen.
So maybe it's like the Dick Van Dyke Show with Quan and Karen as like the main characters, and then Quan is like the kooky neighbor with his talking trees in his backyard.
He's the neighbor's like, please just leave me alone. I don't like you.
Yeah, exactly.
Karen drops out of a closet full of what was it full of? In the Dream episode?
Oh,
I can't
walnuts.
remember. It's like
Yeah.
nuts or something.
Yeah.
Walnuts.
Karen drops out of a closet full of walnuts, and Carr's like, man, I gotta stop drinking, or I gotta stop putting heme allergy spikes in me. This is getting crazy.
That was one spike too far.
It's like he opens the pantry and there's just all these jars of spikes in blood. He's like, oh.
Ew.
Which one do I want tonight? Let's see.
Mm.
The email ends with looking forward to hearing everyone's reactions to the end of the series and whatever books you read next. You guys have been doing an awesome job so far. Best of luck, Benny. So thank you.
Thanks, man.
We'll try to maintain our level of awesomeness. Everything is awesome. Okay. No. Thank you, everyone who sent emails. If you'd like to send us an email, the address is thesanderlanche@gmail.com. You can also find us on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and such places as that, or on the Podbean site. Listen to us directly from Podbean or the Podbean app if that's your jam. It's often a source of discussion on the Discord. It's like, what are different podcasting apps that people use and which one is better? And I'm like, I don't bother finding the best one. I'm sure there's much better ones. I just have Apple Podcasts because it's convenient. But that's me. What apps do you guys use to listen to podcasts? I'm curious.
Mainly Apple Podcasts. I also use SoundCloud a bit because there's some podcasts that I listen to that have been going for a long, long time, and iTunes takes some episodes just out of the library. But usually fans do a good job of uploading those to SoundCloud, so I use that quite a bit.
Oh, interesting.
Pretty much only used Spotify.
Yeah, that's a popular one.
Yeah, Apple Podcasts.
Okay. Just curious. So the new song, Music by Miracle of Sound, and the new song, like I said, was Upside Down. And also, if you guys, I talked about it a little bit before, but Miracle of Sound has just released the new version of Take It Back, the song that we were using for Hero of Ages. So if you love that song, you can go out and get the new version of that. Which
Sweet.
Cool.
Other than that, 4 chapters for next time, and wasing to the time of next, everyone.
And when everything is upside